Hello everyone, welcome back to another video, and today is another episode of our series of Jurassic World Dinopedia, and today we're talking about the Apatosaurus. So just gonna say, Apatosaurus does appear on Rebirth, so I'm gonna talk about it, so we're gonna have some little spoilers for Rebirth, but you know, it's Apatosaurus, and it doesn't do much on the movie, so, and I'm only talking about the Apatosaurus part, nothing else. So okay, let's begin. Apatosaurus, meaning the septed lizard, is a herbivorous sauropod that lived in North America during the late Jurassic period, about 152 million years ago. Some fossils for Apatosaurus were found at the Morrison Formation, meaning that the Apatosaurus lived with other famous dinosaurs such as the Diplodocus, Camarasaurus, Stegosaurus, and Allosaurus. Oh yeah, also the Brachiosaurus. The Apatosaurus had an average length of 23 meters long, was around 5 meters tall, and weighed around 37 tons. There are only two species of Apatosaurus discovered, Apatosaurus ajax and Apatosaurus louisei. The Apatosaurus is classified as being part of the Diplodocus family because it shares the key anatomy features with other members of the Diplodocus family, such as the long neck and the really long tail. The tail of the Apatosaurus is believed to be used as defense, but of course the Apatosaurus could also use the body for defense by rearing up on its hind legs to stomp on carnivores. Some relatives of the Apatosaurus had spikes on the body, so it is common to see paleo art of the Apatosaurus featuring spikes on the back or on the neck, which I think looks really good. In order to facilitate the processing of food, which it could not chew with its teeth, Apatosaurus probably swallowed stones that it kept in the gizzard, similar to that found on chickens. The tough plant fibers would spend time in the gizzard, stewing and guarding up the stones. Okay, so here's my quick explanation of what a gizzard is. I was going to just put the pictures, but I found two types of pictures. The first one was just the organ and it was too disturbing, I wish I didn't look that. And the second one was an anatomical drawing of a chicken, but then had all the organs, so I'm just gonna do a quick drawing here so you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so first here's the gizzard. The Apatosaurus can't chew, so it's gonna swallow the whole plants and then it's gonna swallow rocks because the rocks are going to stay on the stomach, breaking the plants that the Apatosaurus is eating. That's the whole gizzard thing. The sauropod cannot chew, so instead it swallows the whole food, then the rocks, and the rocks are going to break apart the leaves so it can properly digest them. If you watch Prehistoric Park, they do use that for the Titanosaurus. And when these rocks get on the stomach, we call them gastroliths. Okay, but now let's talk about the Ingen Clone. The Ingen version is 6.1 meters tall, 27.4 meters long, and weighed around 20 to 36 tons. But I'm just gonna say that is the size for World, Fallen Kingdom, and the Dino Tracker, but in Dominion I had a feeling that the Apatosaurus was way bigger. None of the promotional material or anything has a different size for the Apatosaurus, so I thought maybe it was just the angle, but on Rebirth we actually see a human close to the Apatosaurus, and the Apatosaurus is more than the double of the size. It's ginormous now. But we don't have a actual size of the Apatosaurus, so if anyone wants to try and speculate the size of the Apato on Rebirth and Dominion, you're free to go. Okay, so here I was trying to figure out the size of the Apatosaurus. Oh yeah, thanks for Dynamite for making this size chart here. I'm going to use later on the video too. And here. You see the guy here next to the Apato, so I got the Apato render and then I made it I think it is still a bit small. But just look at this. Look at this size. Please tell me I'm wrong. But I wouldn't doubt it because the T-Rex at a certain scene he has a size and then on another scene he's bigger just for that one scene. So I wouldn't doubt it that they just didn't care for the size of the dinos. A good example being the Apatosaurus here. But yeah, anyone that wants to try and make a size measure for the Rebirth Apato, I think even the Dominion Apato, I don't think it's this big. I think the Dominion is just double the size, and then on Rebirth is triple. No, not even triple, it's way more than. Apatosaurus is huge now. The Jurassic World Apatosaurus reached full size by 10 years. The Apatosaurus used his tail for defense, as we can see here with Rexy. It chewed its food unlike the original Apatosaurus, which only swallowed their leaves and then swallowed stones to grind their guts to help the digestion. The Apatosaurs are the famous gentle giants. We never see them being super aggressive or territorial. They like to live on big herds but also can live on smaller groups. On Jurassic World, we see that the Apatosaurus also likes to live in herds with other species, because we see on the Cretaceous clues the Apato with the Stegosaurus and the Parasaurolophus, and on the Jurassic Valley the Apatosaurus is with Stegos paras plus the Triceratops. When it gets too cold they migrate for warmer areas, but they can still survive in the cold, as we saw on Dominion and the Dino Tracker website. For 5 years they can survive on the snow, and then after that they just die because, I don't know. Okay, so now let's talk about the design of the Apatosaurus. First, the colors. On Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom they have a grey skin with dark grey stripes, and some really light brown stripes across the body, and light grey for the underbelly. On Jurassic World we see a baby Apatosaurus at the petting zoo. His colors are similar to the adult but with bigger light brown marks. Forgot to say, but the Apatosaurus has these pretty blue eyes here. For Dominion, it still has the same colors, but we have more than one variant. As you can see on this behind the scenes shot, the first Apato is light grey and you don't see any of these yellow stripes on the neck. And the second one has the stripes and has a more darker grey for the body. Both of them have a darker grey for the feet and more of a beige for the underbelly. Just like in real life, the Apatosaurus only have one claw on the front feet. I'm talking about this because even though on the movie it's like that, but on Evolution and also on the Mattel toy they give it a bunch of claws. Now let's talk about the lore. Although the Apatosaurus doesn't have that much of a role in the movies, we do have the books and the website, so we do have an actual lore to talk about it. So the first thing is interesting because the Apatosaurus was confirmed to be on Isla Sorna because of the official souvenir magazine for The Lost World. They identified the several skeletons spotted just outside of the work village as belonging to a Apatosaurus. And then on 2018 on the DPG website, we got this information. In 1993, Ingen had 57 DNA of Apatosaurus, meaning that the Apatosaurus couldn't be created because they didn't have enough DNA, but then maybe, retcon, but not necessarily, because here's just a theory. The dead Apatosaurus is an Apatosaurus that they tried to recreate using the not completed DNA, and then it died. Maybe it had some health problems because of the lack of the DNA, or just like on Jurassic Park Operation Genesis or Evolution, it didn't live long enough because it didn't have complete DNA. So I'm gonna be honest, I think it's just a retcon. So then the species probably was only cloned when Masrani bought Ingen, and then they started working to make Jurassic World. We don't have a time of when the first Apatosaurus was created, but the DPG says that Apatosaurus takes 10 years to be fully grown. And when Jurassic World opened in 2005, there wasn't any Apatos. So I have a theory that they were born around 2007 or 2008, that making the Apatosaurus we see on the movie almost fully grown. Because remember that I said about Dominion changing the size, so on Dominion and Rebirth, that's the fully grown Apatosaurus. As far as we know, the Apatosaurus lives on two enclosures, the Cretaceous Cruise and the Jurassic Valley. The juveniles, together with other herbivores, will live on the petting zoo until they got older, and then they would be transferred to either the Cretaceous Cruise or the Jurassic Valley. When the Indominus Rex escaped, she went to the Jurassic Valley and attacked a group of Apatosaurus. When Owen and Claire arrived there, they noticed that none of the Apatosaurus were dead. The Indominus only attacked them and then left them to die by the injuries. On the canonical VR experience, Jurassic World Apatosaurus, I don't know why that's canon, but it is, we see Apatosaurus all alone on the forest, sleeping next to her nest. Then she wakes up, eats some plants, and then goes back to sleep. And that's it. It's canon because, I don't know, Colin said that it's canon, so it is. On Fallen Kingdom, we see the Apatosaurus running from the volcano with other species, and then later we see that the Apatosaurus was on the Lockwood Manor, but we don't have any information if any of them were sold. Later we see that the Apatosaurus with other dinos escaped from the Lockwood Manor and now are free to roam around the world. On the book Maze Lockwood Adventures, at the Yosemite Park we see a group of herbivores, one Gallimimus, one Ankylosaurus, one Parasaurolophus, and 3 Apatosaurus. The trio of Apatosaurus came to the park together and stayed near a lake. Later they joined with the other herbivores. When a snowstorm happened, the herbivores got scared and ran in the direction of a town. And the three Apatosaurus got inside of a school. The first Apatosaurus got inside a pool, and I thought it was cute and funny, but the Apatosaurus started to play with the diving board. She was popping the end of the diving board with her nose, gentle enough to shake the entire diving board but not break it. Meanwhile, the other two Apatosaurus were found by the park rangers at the football field, where later they moved all the other species there. One of the rangers says that all the dinosaurs will be transported to sanctuaries so they can be with others of their species. On the Dino Tracker website, we don't have any important lore involved with the Apatosaurus, they're just there, but we have this cool clip of the Apato defending himself against Rexy, so that's cool. In Dominion, we see a Apatosaurus walking into a lumberyard. Maze suggests that the workers use a flare to move the Apatosaurus out of there. They do that, but when the Apatosaurus is leaving, he calls for his friend who wakes up and goes with him. And at the end of the movie, we see the Apatosaurus on a forest eating from a tree, again showing that the Apatosaurus can live on different climates. It also shows that Apatosaurus are attracted to flares. That's nowadays a more common thing, like for example in Chaos Tier we see a bunch of different species being attracted to flares, so it's not T-Rex things. A bunch of dinos have that. On Rebirth, the last sauropod from North America is dying. A Apatosaurus named Brontosaurus, a reference to another species of sauropod, Brontosaurus. Okay, first they discovered the Apatosaurus, and then they discovered another species that was named Brontosaurus. After a while they studied the Brontosaurus fossils and discovered that was actually just an Apatosaurus and not a different species. But in 2015 they did some analysis on the whole Diplodocus family, but they figured out that the Brontosaurus actually has some difference, so now it is a valid species again. I'm gonna put in the description a link to the website that has the official article to talk about the whole Diplodocus family, including the Apatosaurus and Brontosaurus part. Okay, going back to the Apatosaurus named Brontosaurus, he escaped from a zoo on Newark, but it didn't went far as we see that the Apatosaurus there was dying. Seeing that the movie says that the dinosaurs are dying because of climate change, that could be the answer for what is happening to this Apatosaurus, because we actually don't know if it is dying because of climate or maybe old age, but I think it's probably the climate change, which doesn't really make sense, but whatever. On the first Jurassic World, the only new sounds for the Apatosaurus are the ones that it makes when it's dying. All the actual roars are just Brachiosaurus sounds. But on the game LEGO Jurassic World, the Apatosaurus got new sounds. And those new sounds were later used for Fallen Kingdom, Dino Tracker, and Dominion. They became the canon sounds for the Apatosaurus. But on the VR that I mentioned that I don't know the reason why it's canon, the Apatosaurus makes some brachio noise, but also new Apatosaurus sounds. That were used for the Brachiosaurus in Camp Cretaceous. Another fun fact, on the first Jurassic Park, the first dinosaur was supposed to be the Brachiosaurus. It was supposed to be the Apatosaurus, but they changed for the Brachio. On Lost World, on the game trail scene, we see the Mamenchisaurus, but originally it was the Apatosaurus. And according to a book that released the same time as JP3, the first dinosaur that the crew would see on the plane was the Apatosaurus, but on the movie is the Shrike and the Cretasaurus. So only on Jurassic World the Apatosaurus finally appeared, and then it appeared on all the other movies after that. Now, I was gonna do the videos on alphabetical order, so the next one was supposed to be a Triceratops, but because of Rebirth, the next video will be about the Titanosaurus. Not gonna do all the Rebirth species now, just the ones that have more focus on the movie, so it's going to be Titanosaurus, Aquilops, Mutodon, and D-Rex, and then we get back to alphabetical order. But well, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all on the next video. Goodbye!